Hey everybody, this is Joe Pace with Icewater Yoga, and today I'm going to talk through and demonstrate the top 5 yoga poses for balancing. And the top 5 is my own personal opinion, and the reason I chose them is because they all sort of address a different aspect of balance that is necessary for the body and for us to have a little bit of awareness of. And also I'm going to teach them in a way that I often don't hear them taught, that gives you the ability to approach the poses at a beginner level as opposed to just trying to go into these balancing poses full bore all the way in. So the first one is tree pose, and you'll see this one's a really classic pose you'll see in the media, just in general. Tree oftentimes gets taught in the full pose with this leg all the way to the inseam of the leg and the arms overhead. Okay, so that's not where you need to go for this pose, especially to start. The place to start for this pose is just to place the sole of the right foot towards the ankle of the left foot, and I'm tucking my toes so that I'm facing the right knee out to my right, and then from here I keep my hands at my hips. And so I'm already bringing a lot of balance elements into my left leg. Try not to forget to engage your left quad and firm down through your left heel. By firming down through the left heel, you turn on the back of the leg. By engaging through the quad, you engage the front of the leg so that your foundation is strong. Okay, so a strong foundation is huge for balance. From there, you can take the foot to the calf, skip the knee. When you have the range of motion in your hips, you can ultimately take the leg all the way to the inseam of the thigh, and then you can always take the arms overhead and grow your branches. It's a classic line in yoga. Grow the branches tall. All right. And what I like about tree is it gives us a one-legged balance with the support of the other leg. And this next pose is extremely simple, but it takes away one of these elements, which is one foot against the leg. So we'll take the right knee to the chest this time, and this is your pose. So a lot of people struggle with this because they only have one leg to stand on without the support of one of their legs pressing against the other. So just by simply standing here, you develop a lot of balance in the left leg. If you stay here for a minute, you're going to be strengthening a lot of the muscles that you need to stabilize the pose. You can always add a twist, left hand outside right leg, right hand to the low back, twist open, you're looking to your right or maybe behind you, and then you can come back to center. The balance is being tested. Okay, that's a really nice one. That's number 2. Number 3 is Warrior 3. And so Warrior 3 oftentimes I think it's a bad rap because it's taught at its most extreme. You see Warrior 3 with people forcing themselves into a parallel, getting their body parallel with the mat and the arms overhead, which is the full pose. Okay, that's really hard to hold for a long time. Don't worry about taking the arms overhead. Don't worry about taking the upper body to be parallel with the floor. Start with the left foot against the mat, right foot behind you, hands at the hips. Technically, this is Warrior 3 pose. Okay, you don't have to have the back foot off the ground. You're lifting through the chest. So now we're getting one foot behind us. We had the foot in front, we had it to the side, now it's behind. You lift through the chest and you want to keep this lifting chest the entire time you hinge at your hips. If you lose the lifting of the chest, you've gone too far. So the arms can be by your sides, palms face down, hands at the hips. Either way, you keep the chest lifting, lifting, lifting. As far as your chest draws down, your back leg lifts. Okay, so you don't want your back leg low. If your back leg stays low, you got to keep your chest high. So the chest is dropping as much as the back leg is rising. You can always work towards straightening the arms and gazing between your hands. All right, so that's a pretty major pose. What I just demonstrated requires a lot of hamstring flexibility and balance, but you don't have to go there to get the pose or the majority of the benefits of the pose. The next one is half moon pose. And what I like about this pose is it's like Warrior 3, except we're shifting and requiring balance in a lateral plane as opposed to a front and back plane. So grab yourself a block to start. We'll place the block about a foot in front of our right foot and 6 inches to the right of it. And we'll take our right hand to the block. And there's a bunch of ways to get into this pose. We're just going to explore this pose really simply here. And so if you don't feel comfortable getting your hand to a block here, probably just watch for now and then start to practice when you're a little bit more warm. From here, we want to lift the back leg and open the hips to the left. So now my left hip is stacked on top of my right. I point my left toes, and now I'm balancing on one leg with another leg behind me while facing you, not the floor. I can gaze towards the floor. So what I'm looking at isn't necessarily what my body is looking at. My body is looking at you, but my gaze is looking towards the floor to find a focal point to balance me out. My arm is towards the ceiling, or my hand is at my hip, whatever feels best for the body. I can look straight at you, or I can look overhead, which makes it a lot more challenging. I don't have the ground to focus on, which makes the pose feel a lot floatier, less grounded. So that is half moon. The final one is actually an arm balance. So I want to give you a sense of getting balance not only in your legs, but also in your upper body. And the pose I like to teach is side plank, mostly because there's so many variations. First, in the upper body, I can have a forearm on the mat, or I can have a hand on the mat. When I extend the legs behind me, I have a bunch of other options. So now I stabilize my right shoulder. We're going to talk about the alignment in a second. I can take my left foot in front to support it. I can take my right knee down to support it. I can put one foot in front of the other. I can stack the feet. I can lift one foot, or I can bring one knee into the chest and extend the leg towards the ceiling. Okay, so this is obviously the more advanced version, but just want to demonstrate how many different things you can do. And there's actually even more than that, okay? But for what I want you to focus on today is the alignment in the shoulder. So oftentimes I see in side plank, the right shoulder right over the right wrist. And what happens is when you're in the pose, there tends to be a lot of upward pressure put on the shoulder. It actually compresses the joint. So before coming into it, start in a plank pose, rock halfway back to downward facing dog, so not a full down dog, and then reach your right hand forward first. That's going to give you the downward angle from your shoulder that you need to fully support the pose. Rock onto the outside edge of your right foot, and then take any foot variation you'd like. You'll notice my right shoulder isn't right on top of my right wrist. It's a little bit behind it. So now I have more strength, structure, support to hold the pose for a long time. Left hand can be up. My gaze can be towards the hand or the floor. Again, right knee can be on the mat. Right forearm can be on the mat. All working balance in different ways. So that's balance. There's so many different ways to address it. I like these 5 poses because they're all different. They all address balance in a different way. We had 4 that focus on the lower body and just 1 that focuses on the upper body, just because we didn't really want to get so far into arm balancing today. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it, and I hope to work with you again